Okay, so let's start with the body. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna fold, this is the belly, this is the front of the doll. We're gonna fold it in half, and then we're gonna sew right up this dart. And then with the back of the doll, so we have two pieces, right sides together, and we're gonna sew from here down. We're gonna leave this open and then sew the bottom of this part. So let's do both of those things.
Whisper?
Yeah, you can whisper. Okay. So we've got this sewn up this side and we've got this sewn, but we've still got this big hole. So this hole ends up being the bum of the doll. So we're gonna do the same thing as we did with the feet. We pinch it open, we grab each end right here, and then we're gonna line up these seams right here. I'm gonna line up the seams and we're gonna open them up to reduce the bulk. And then we're just gonna stitch straight across here. You can give it a little bit of a curve, which takes out the pokies from the edge of the bum and makes it a little bit smoother. So we'll start at the dot. I think on the pattern it is, I don't have that number. Oh, here it is. So it's N. So on your N marking, if you put your dot there, you can start at N, curve around, and sew your 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then come back around to the next N dot. So let's do that. Okay, so here we have the bum that we've stitched closed. So this is what it looks like on the other side if you were to open it. So this is the back side. So we are ready to add the legs, and let me show you the placement of the legs. So what we're gonna do is, here's our foot and the front of our foot, and here's the leg. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pinch it like this up at the top so that this becomes the front and it attaches to the body this way. So what we need to do is make sure that this back side is touching the back of the body. So see that? Here's the front of the foot. Because we're attaching it to the back side, this is the bum, remember? So since we're attaching it to the back side of the body, we have to make sure that this back leg is touching the back side of the body. So also to get it to sit straight, we have to put it in here at an angle, a pretty heavy angle. So make sure this edge is touching the edge here, and then you have your BB marking over here. That's gonna touch over on this side. So put it at an angle about like that, and then use lots of pins to keep it in place, because I think these little things move around more than they should. So keep those pins in there to keep it in place. So we're gonna do the same thing with the other leg. So here's our other leg. We're gonna pinch it, and then we're gonna make sure that this is the back side of the leg is touching the back side of this one. So the back, this edge right here, and there's that one. So we're gonna pin that one in place. Okay, so that's how we attach the legs. Now, to make sure we like the placement, we're gonna go ahead and baste across here within the seam allowance. If we baste within the seam allowance, then we don't have to unstitch our basting later. So let's baste those legs on and make sure we like their placement. Okay, so when we're putting in the arms, I like to pinch them a little bit to the side, and then what we do is we put this side that is, there is no stitch here, it's going to be up. The side with the stitch is going to be down and your thumb is going to go upwards. That makes sure that your direction of your arm is going the right way. And then on your pattern, there's a little bit of an arm placement guide. You can use that if you want. At the angle that I have it, it's going to go pretty straight down towards the side of the body. So the more you slide it up like this, the more it's going to stick straight out from the body. So choose the placement that you like and then put your arm in. But make sure that your thumb is up and your stitch is towards the body. Okay, so I like mine going down to the side of the body like this. Let's talk about the collar for a minute. So this is how the pattern comes. This side doesn't have a seam allowance because we actually, we're not going to sew it separately from the doll, so it doesn't have, it's already actually built into the pattern piece. Rather than cutting out the full pattern, I like to cut off the seam allowance. I leave this section uncut, and then I just leave the collar on to get that nice round piece, and I sew right along this line with the collar pattern piece still on there. So let's do that. Okay, so after I get it all sewn, that's when I cut it out, take the paper off, and then cut the paper off, and then I cut it. So, can you see that? This little notch that I have right in there, that's where I've cut it. That is the X notch. That is the center. That's where it's going to line up at the top of the belly, the body front, and where the neckline matches up. But I did want to say about the collar is that it definitely is an optional piece. I feel like the collar is a good thing to add to the doll when you have no plans of making clothes for it, or it's a gift and it's a complete set, just the one little doll with the skirt. I think the collar adds a lot, but I also feel like the collar gets in the way a little bit if you choose to make other outfits for this doll. So keep that in mind when you're choosing whether to add the collar or not. If you are planning on making more outfits, then maybe you want to leave the collar off. Okay, so we're gonna turn this right side out, and then we're gonna line it up with the body and baste it in place. Okay, so I like to iron the collar. I think it helps to get it all flattened out and look really nice before you add it. It's definitely harder to get it to sit nicely after you've added it to the doll. So iron it first, and then add it to the doll. Okay, so we have our arms pinned into place where we want them, and now we have our collar. We're gonna definitely mark your X first when you're doing the collar, or else your collar's gonna end up not quite as straight as you would like it. So mark your collar first, pin it into place, and then we're gonna baste all of those into place. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys this, that the collar is just a tad bit longer than the neckline. That's okay, just try to get this line especially to line up with it. It gives it just a little bit extra room for when the body stretches out so that it doesn't tug funny on the doll. So make sure you're lining up that line right there. There's a purpose for it being a little bit longer than the doll. Okay, so let's baste the arms and the collar in place. I really like basting, especially when we get to this point, because basting is a way of making sure that it's in place where we want it to be, and it is super easy to unstitch if it isn't where we want it to be in place. If we accidentally flipped an arm around, or if, see, look. Oh, that arm is right. Okay, I thought it was upside down. So, whether it's the arm is upside down, or when we get the legs on and we add the legs, if they're happy where they're at, basting is just a nice, easy way of checking for placement and everything without having to unstitch the true stitching when especially since we're using such a short stitch length for dolls, it really makes a big difference in being able to fix mistakes. So let's baste this into place, and then we'll be able to place the body back with the belly. Okay, so we've basted it into place. Can you see that? We've basted it into place, so we can kind of open it, decide if that's the way that we like it. It's a little deceiving right now because once you stuff it, it does look a little bit different again even after that, but I think it shows a pretty good indication of where everything is. So there's the collar, and then we've got our arms on. When you pull them out, both thumbs are going up, so, and the line is on the inside, so the arms are in the right place. So we are ready to start attaching the back side of the body to the front. So I like to start at the bottom at this seam right here. I like to open it up to reduce bulk again, and then I line it up with this seam right here. Okay, and see how that lines up perfectly? That is exactly how it is supposed to line up. Just like that. Can you see that? This little notch right here is taken out because that is where it lines up. So this little spot right there is actually where your 1/4 inch seam allowance should be. And so when they line up, then you open it up and they go together perfectly. Okay, so let's go around the other side. Okay, so here it all is. If you need to, you can get your arms and everything pulling out of this hole if you need to make sure that you're not gonna sew anything up that's not supposed to be sewn up. I just really like to baste this one. Even with how many dolls that I have made, I still prefer to baste this seam closed, because if I did do something wrong, then like I said previously, but it's so much easier to stitch or unstitch a basting stitch than to unstitch the nice tight stitch that we need for a doll. So If you are comfortable, go ahead and stitch it. But if not, baste it first and then open it up and check all of your placements. But on this basting stitch, I do stitch it right at the 1/4 of an inch, and then I stitch right over the basting stitch just so I can see the exact placement of everything. So then if I see any basting stitches afterwards, I will cut them out, but I only do it where it's hanging out from my true stitching. So just as a little note. So let's stitch this with our basting stitch and then we'll see how it looks. Okay, so we just basted. Now we're gonna take all the pins out. And turn it around and see if we like the placement of everything. I like to fold the legs down, make sure when they're folded down that they sit the way they're supposed to. I pull out the arms. Look at that, see? This is why we baste first. I swear they were even. And now look at one arm is clear down here and one arm is clear up here. So I'm going to fix that. And then we can move on. Let's try this again. I swear those arms move and those legs move on their own accord. Okay, so look, that looks much better. The arms are in a much better position. And the legs, I liked the legs the first time. So I think this time we're ready to stitch it for real. Okay, so we're happy about the arms, and there's the body. So now that we've got it all the positioning that we want it to be in, we're gonna go ahead and stuff it all back in there, and then clip all the way around. Clip off your excess legs if you want to. And clip your curves so they sit nice. Your excess arm. You can also check here for like the basting that, see how this basting is outside the seam? Clip that. We'll have to get rid of that. We don't want to see those seams. But like I said, you only have to do that where it's on the wrong side of the seam. Okay, so here's our body. The next thing we get to do is we're going to move on to the head.